Anecdotes for success. Level up with truth, meaning, trade-offs, perspective.
All right, welcome to tonight's episode, Matt. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
And we have our guest Kirk Cabana on. I'm not going to say too much, except he's a college baseball coach. He's founder of the movement Pursuit for Purpose, which we'll talk about, and he's got an awesome story. So, Kirk, welcome aboard, and tell us about yourself.
Guys, first, honored, blessed, and grateful that you would take the time to let me flap my gums here a little bit today and share some of my heart with your audience, and genuinely just getting this opportunity. Hey, if it makes a positive impact on one person, then everything's worth it.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
So
Kirk and I met like 8 minutes ago. So I know, Kirk, that Paul's been telling me, you got a cool story and good person, and looking forward to hearing a little bit about your journey here, and having a nice conversation. So by all means, tell us about yourself.
Man, well, first off, the journey is, as weird as it is, has brought me to simple moments like this, where I get a chance to pour myself out, and again, just try to positively impact anybody that might be willing to let my sound come through their ears. And for myself, I went through a big transformation about 5 years ago. And even though that transformation happened, the best part is that I'm in the midst of continual transformation because of the changes that happened back then. And I decided to go back to school when I was 30 years old. And, that's a pretty common thing for a lot of people, just going back and getting your education. But for me, I'm an athlete. I've been an athlete my entire life. And there was something put on my heart that, like, Kirk, go back and try to play sports as an old guy at junior college. And, that wasn't my first path in life. But at the age of 19, at my first stint of junior college, at the same junior college I decided to go back to, Citrus College in California, I wasted a full ride scholarship as a football player. And obviously, looking at me, I'm not really a football player. I was a kicker, so kind of a football player. And, I didn't understand at that age what it took to separate from your competition. I was good enough naturally by talent to get by, be a starter, earn what I'd earned, but I didn't put in the extra work. I was never competing against the people that weren't even on the same field as me. And so I wasted it. I full ride, like I said, signed, sealed, and delivered. All I had to do was go to the back to junior college after my visit, passed 3 classes, self-sabotage, started hanging out with friends too much, started missing classes, then started making every excuse in the book for whose fault it was except my own. And the reality is just at that time in my life, I was mentally weak. I hadn't faced much adversity, and I wasn't willing to overcome the challenges that I put myself in. So I ran. I ran from my own future because of my fear of failing again. And, I had everybody tell me, Kirk, go back, take a redshirt year. It happens. You'll find your way. You do it. No, coach made it no fun and this and that. And no, I was weak. So I hid in plain sight for about 10 years, maybe even a little bit more, 11 years. And I wasn't getting in trouble. I was making good money. I was doing what an adult was supposed to do, but ultimately I was not fulfilled with what I was supposed to be doing. I knew there was supposed to more that I was supposed to be, do, and have, and more that I was supposed to be a servant, and more that I was just supposed to give back to people in general. And the biggest change for me and the big kick in the butt came when I had my son. And I knew if I was going to ever ask this young man to do anything, I needed to try to find a way to do it myself first. And so that's where this all got started. And first off, I have no idea how my wife let me get away with this at all. Like, I owe her everything for taking these leaps of faith with me. And, she's who I try to make, the most proud through some of this, because she took a big chance on letting me start pursuing these things with a couple-month-year-old, all because we just both knew that, hey, this has to happen now, or it could lead to bigger problems in the future of just relationship issues if you're not content with what you're working towards. And I went into this whole process with knowing like, I'm not going to make a dime for 5 years. You know, I'm going to go back to school for a year. It's going to take me 2 years to be school. The plan originally was get a grad assistant job, and then boom, 5 years. I'm going to then find my way into full-time coaching. And that was a wake-up call getting into this game and understanding how many people are working for a fat $0. So I do not take for granted at all that I've been able to earn an opportunity to now become a full-time coach. But to back it up just a little bit, I found myself out there. I found myself of who I am, what I'm supposed to be, and how I'm supposed to serve on the baseball field. It was a fun aspect of life to know that I had my teammates on that team coming up to me and saying, Kirk, I can't quit because you won't quit. I can't let the 30-year-old guy be the guy that's outworking me, showing up to everything. And I started wearing that as a true badge of honor. If I could have a wife, a kid, a full-time job, go to school full-time, show up to weight room on time, do good in classes now, what's your excuse? Why can't you actually do these little things? And I just loved that. And I finally got my mind right. I finally started feeding myself good personal development materials, reading good books, and just building, the small, consistent steps of what it takes to grow in anything. And baseball is that sport of comparison in life for myself, of where you can grow through failure. And I knew if I could just start where I was, I hadn't played baseball in 15 years. If I could just start where I was, I could get to the end of the season, start from there, get to the next season, and go from there. And just that 1% better aspect mentality of what I can do. And, it took a village in some capacities. I had a lot of people supporting me, and also a lot of people trying to speak reality into my ears. But it only took the baseball coach on that first day in the bleachers telling the entire team, 70 guys sitting there in the bleachers, I'm not going to cut anybody. You're going to cut yourself. You're going to miss weight room. You're going to, mess up your classes. You're going to miss practices. You're going to do any number of things that get you taken off this team. And that's where I knew I had it. That's where I knew that if I just stay the course, I knew how much I left on the table at 18. I knew how much and that's what I thrived on. I can outwork 18-year-olds. I can outwork an old me because they don't know what they're missing yet. And so I just fell in love with the process of growing as a human being. And after that season, I earned a scholarship out to the school that I've now been lucky enough to earn a full-time coaching job at as well too. So it's been fun to that circle got to go. Graduated. I didn't go through the master's process. I'm in my own master's process now, but not through a grad assistant role because of the fact that I ended up earning a full-time job. I didn't end up having to go down that road for myself, but I'm still in the process of finishing my master's because that is a part of the journey of getting to be a collegiate head coach and just building more credentials and everything for yourself. So it's been a fun road. And interestingly enough, I actually had a lot of opportunities all throughout the country to go and play on different teams. But what really drew me to this university was being a part of building something new. It was the second year of the program when I got there. And I just wanted to be a part of building a culture, foundation, and direction of a place, because that might be the kind of program that I get my first start at as a coach, as a head coach. And I want to be able to have been through it and grown through it. And, all I care about is the group of people that we get to put together. We don't need the exorbitant budgets or the flashy tech. We've got some stuff, but no, you just need people. And that's what I care about the most.
What university are you at, Kirk?
I'm at Carolina University. It's a small Christian college in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Okay.
It's been around since, 1947, but more realistically, they just started sports programs and the new direction of the university itself of kind of just getting with the times, bringing in degree programs and things that kids are actually looking to, actually looking to get their education in. I love the basis of the faith-based university, but they realistically knew for themselves kids aren't going to school for Bible degrees these days.
Sure, fair enough. We all got to adjust, right?
Right, exactly.
So, Kirk, I don't want to interrupt your story. So if you're not, but
no,
you said a lot of very interesting things there, and of which I made some notes I wanted to back up on. The first one that caught my eye was you talk about the fact that you hadn't been through any adversity when your first time through playing football, and when you got adversity, you didn't know how to handle it. And this is something that comes up, whether it's on our podcast here with Paul talking to other people, or I just see all the time. And, I have this fear that we live in a time where all we're trying to do is eliminate adversity all the time. We don't want anybody to be upset. We don't want anybody to have a challenge. Everything's got to be nerfed and bubble wrapped, and we don't want any problems for anyone at any time, which I think is the exact opposite of what we want. We want people to have adversity. We want, there's an author, a guy by the name of Jonathan Haidt, who wrote many books that I've read, but one called The Coddling of the American Mind. And he gets into this and how detrimental not having adversity can be. So can you back up and kind of be a little more specific on what that was like when you realized it? Because you obviously realized it at some point. I don't know if it was 10 years ago or yesterday you realized it, but can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you're right on the money. I thought about it the day after I failed myself, every day. Let me tell you guys, it ain't fun to have a going away party and not go anywhere. That's not something I ever want to do again. And, and that's a part of the process of, like I said, of hidden in plain sight. And I just was never that kind of person in the first place. And I just tucked my tail and ran. And look, like I said, I was doing fine financially, but there was no lateral movement that could happen with the job. Look, I'm still work for my family company that I was making the money with, and just took on a different role, but I wasn't going to be defined by killing bugs for the rest of my life. That's just not who I was supposed to be. And it was great while you're 19, 20, 21, you're making good money in an adult industry, and you tell yourself, hey, I ain't going to get trapped in this. And hey, man, I've been working here for 10 years. I better figure out what's going on. But, I also, wish that I would have done this at 24, 22, 23, 25, 26, any number other than 30. It makes me think that I wish I had my kids sooner, type of thing. But we also weren't ready for that in any kind of respect for ourselves. And that is, I started in slow pitch softball. I mean, you guys talk about, some podcasts and whatnot, but I was softball guy out there. I didn't know how to flip the switch. It didn't matter that I'm playing co-ed softball. I'm sprinting, I'm running around, I'm diving for balls, I'm beating it out to second base. I'm doing anything I can to win, just because I'm a competitor. And asking my friends, hey, you think there's any chance I can go and play college baseball or something, but just planting seeds. And then something just got put on my heart. It was a little bit higher than myself that, I kind of just took that time to prepare for it. But we're even talking adversity. I had to get academically eligible before I even approached a coach to wonder if they would take on a 30-year-old, because you can't be like, hey, coach, I'm a 30-year-old academically ineligible, baseball player. You think there's any chance for me to come into your program? No, there was things that I needed to do right. And what I do know about myself was I just wasn't ready to be a student yet. I wasn't ready to actually take the time to absorb the material that I needed for myself. And it's never been for a lack of intelligence, just always for a lack of intention. And I'm a master procrastinator, and it's something that I've worked through and I'm working on, and just identifying my own weaknesses and trying to turn them into strengths as much as I can. And that's one of the most fun parts I've enjoyed, was my weakness being education. And now I feel like it's one of my biggest strengths, is what I've continued to feed myself. And Zig Ziglar has a quote where he discusses it. You can finish school, you can even make it easy, but you'll never finish your education, and it's seldom easy. So it's I'm a lifelong learner at this point, and every class, for whatever reason, has been the class I'm supposed to be taking at that point. And it's just given me valuable information that I can turn around and apply into my adult life. And I think there was parts of it as well too. For whatever reason, I lied to myself for a long time that I didn't have anything worth sharing, that I had no substance as a person, that I wasn't old enough to have experienced things and an actual life to be able to give back. And at a certain point, I just knew that if I can help one person avoid the brick walls that I drove into myself, then that's what I'm supposed to be doing.
I think that's I had the same feeling in my life at a certain time, Kirk, where I thought, I don't have anything to offer. I'm just shallow. Everything's just, I mean, wasn't, I'm going back a few years when it started to understand things a little differently, but I can relate to that. And you said something I wanted to transition perfectly to one of my questions here. You talked about feeding your brain earlier, feeding your mind, and you talked about reading, and then you talked about Zig Ziglar and the classes you're taking, and what do you look at in terms of being an athlete, right? You've got to take care of your body, and that's pretty straightforward. It's not straightforward to do, but we all understand that, right? What I put in my body and what I do with my body is going to have an impact on, how fast I run, how far I hit the ball, how quick I take that first step, whatever it is, right? But our mind's the same way, right? We've got to feed it in order to perform like we want our body to. Where'd that come from for you? Why did you say that?
Well, personal development and self-growth has definitely been something that I cared about prior to even going back. I got caught in a couple of different multi-level marketing companies, and one of the things that I took away the most from it was that leadership aspect. And even though I distanced myself because practitioners themselves are the ones that drive different companies, and if they don't make you feel comfortable, then you have to separate from it. But man, I got a lot out of those different kind of books, those kind of different developmental things from as a person. And I just found myself back in that realm of wanting to grow my mind as a young man, and just knowing that there's something within myself, and it's not intended to be arrogance. It's not intended to be anything of anything other than just answering the call that was placed on my heart. And I fought my own faith for a long time because I didn't understand it. And, I've always had faith. I had to have faith to go back and do what I tried to do at 30 years old, but it never had a label. And it's been fun actually seeing something like that grow within the process as well. But personal development, self-growth, emotional intelligence is just something that lights my fire, because I believe that we're all agents of change within ourselves, and if we want anything to happen externally, it has to happen internally first.
In the first 15 minutes, Kirk's already hammered in all 4 of our major pillars. Have you noticed that? So you at some point in your life told yourself the truth, right? And you started growing, and you found your meaning, and you talk about the ultimate trade-offs, and God bless your wife for allowing you to go back to college.
Exactly.
And you have the perspective now. I love the quote you said earlier where I can outwork my 18-year-old self. I'm paraphrasing it a little. I'll catch it later, but I wanted to ask you a question, what your players think, because after what you've been through, if they're dogging it. I mean, sometimes they don't know at their age, but you know more than anybody, because you just recently went through that experience. So how do they react to all this?
Well, the players' reception has been awesome. And I'm saying even from here now, as guys that I'm coaching, to even players that I was on the same team as, because even though it was no label back then, like I was a player coach in some capacity, I was an older guy, and I owe everything to that first team that accepted me, because they could have ran me off. They could have just said, no, we ain't dealing with this. But I think it was because I was such a non-threat to any of them that they just let me go to work. They just let me show up every day and be consistent and show that, I was going to do it. Because I didn't care about being a starter. I just wanted to be the 25th man. I just wanted a chance to, do my part to help a team win, and just be an asset in the dugout. And when I got my chance, I was going to be ready. I make the joke all the time that I was first team all iPad. I was taking the stats. I was taking any information that I could to stay plugged into the game so that when it was my turn, I was ready. And like, I find it hilarious that in late game situations, the 30-year-old guy was the pinch runner because speed has always been my game. But, this body definitely fell apart through the process of trying to come back for sure.
You make a great. Go ahead.
Sorry. But just even in today's standards, the reason I think why the guys appreciate what I'm doing for them is that I'm in the trenches with them. I'm trying the best that I can to show them that, if there's something that I can still do, then they definitely can do it. And I actually, to back it up slightly, and I apologize, at a certain point, I got comfortable again. I did all of this stuff, got to this point, and stopped reading, stopped audio developing, stopped doing everything that got me to make the transition and change that I needed to make, like I was comfortable again. And I was bored of my own story. I was bored of my own aspect of like, dude, I'm not going to be defined as just a 30-year-old who went back and played junior college. There's more to give. I got to where I'm at, and now it's time to look farther and, see what the next journey is going to be. And that's a part of how Pursuit for Purpose really started coming to life, because of the fact that, I'm now fueled right now by challenging these guys again. I'm working out with them, when they work out. I'm just trying to use my athletic self as long as my body will allow me to do it. And, as long as I could still backflip, I'm going to keep trying to backflip, and, who knows what age it'll tell me to stop, but until it does, it'll be fun. And that's, I left the guys this fall when they went on break with just the challenge of, dude, I better not come back looking better than you. This is your time to work. And I took that seriously. And at a certain point, yeah, that's what it started with, but that left it. Now it's just for me. Now it's just for what I can do to continually push myself to get into hopefully my even best athletic shape, and telling them every day, you don't know how much I wish I could still be on the field and not, just coaching. Yeah, I want to be able to be an athlete somehow still, but that's not where it's supposed to be. But these guys appreciate, I think, what I try to pour into them, and know that it's coming from a place of love and a place that I'm just trying to see them not make the same mistakes that I made. But the reality is they're gonna make those mistakes because they're kids and they haven't had those experiences to understand what's been taken away from them until it's gone. But I'm hopeful to be a better ear and a better heart that is going to guide them through those failures to get back up on the horse instead of turning and running the same way that I did.
You said something earlier when you said you were all iPad. Is that what you called yourself?
Yeah, first team all iPad.
But there's a lesson there. If you're doing anything for those players and students, it's just keep preparing, because you might think you've missed 3 opportunities or failed at 3 things, but if you keep preparing, you're gonna strike gold eventually, aren't you? And that's what your story's been about. And when we talked a couple of weeks ago, I know it's not even close to being over. Like, we probably won't even recognize you 4 or 5 years from now, because you're going to keep grinding out. But Matt and I talk about that. You really shouldn't recognize yourself, right?
Right. And I take a lot of honor in somebody trying to say anything like that, because it makes me laugh. As much as I have aspirations for the future, I think one of the biggest things that I've really started to enjoy is living in the present, and just understanding that the more days that I live in the present and do the things consistently, there is no choice but for things to add up. I've really, I'm not any kind of mathematician, but I've really started to fall in love with the simple idea of like the equation of life. Like, if I keep doing the right things, there's no choice but for the next best thing to come along and guide me to where I can, make a positive difference. And I was operating in an equation that did not equal any kind of happiness. And that's just where I feel like I'm operating from now, is just a much better place to, I can't ask somebody to become their best self if I'm not willing to become my best self. And
yeah, Kirk, I agree. I mean, I see so much of this. People look at success and they think it was a moment, right? It was winning the World Series or the Super Bowl, or or, selling your business for, $10 million or whatever. It's never the moment. It's always the day in and day out, making the same good decisions. I preach this all the time. I say to kids mostly, you will be the decisions you make, period. That's what you're going to be. I don't care about how you grew up or what this was or what that was or what challenges you have. You will be the decisions you make. And that goes in line with, you make the good, as you were saying, you make the good decisions day in and day out. You stay true to that, and you will not recognize yourself in 4 or 5 years. You will not believe where you end up, because success is not a moment. Success is not, where you stop. It's not, you don't go, okay, now it's success and it's all over again. And the number of people who don't understand that, or maybe even worse, think they understand that but don't act like it, and don't actually do it and pursue it that way is frustrating to me because you don't have. You said you said it made a kind of a self-deprecating remark earlier. I forget what it was, but I feel the same way. Look, I was never the smartest guy in the room, the best student, the best anything, but I'm always the guy who just won't stop. I just won't stop. And I get the same sense out of you. It's like you just keep putting one foot in front of the next, making good decisions. And my God, you'll turn around someday and go, how did I end up here? And that's not unique to you or me or Paul or anybody else. That's what successful people do.
And you're right on the money. And I laugh at myself that the blueprints have been laid out for us. How many, my mentors are all pretty much dead, as far as it goes. But, I love Earl Nightingale, Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, and Earl Nightingale, defines success as the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And that's all I need is in any person that is working towards something that they care about is a success. And if you keep working towards that, it's going to build you towards, everything that you can. And you're talking about, the decisions that we make. And, he talks about, we become what we think about. And that's just a lot of that aspect is just ingrained in myself at this point, is trying as much as I can to feed myself the positive, mental, meals that I can digest. And look, that's not to say that I'm not going to fail. I'm going to fail just as much as any other person. And I'm going to make mistakes or my own shortcomings that don't meet my own personal standards. Because as Tony Robbins, says a lot of times, I demand more for myself than anybody else could ever expect. And I'm never going to meet my own, standards. And as simple as it is, like just even using all these different people, but Matthew McConaughey makes this simple quote of his idol is, him 10 years in the future, because you're never going to catch that guy. You're never going to catch him. You're always going to get to that point and see farther, and just know that there's more to be, do, and have, and the ways that you can, learn to serve. And that's really, really what's been put on my heart the most is servant leadership. The greatest amongst us have to be the ones to lead. And my favorite Zig Ziglar quote is, you can have everything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want. And that's pretty much what I live my life by at this point.
It's so true. But I wrote this down within the first 3 minutes you were talking. You've mentioned the word serve a half dozen times. What does that mean to you?
It just means going first. It's giving people all of you, so that they know that they're valued, they're cared for, and they're just respected as a human being. I'm nobody to discount anybody's journey or dreams because of the different things that I've chosen to do. I can't sit here and tell any of these kids, even though we're at a low level college, hey, don't dream big for thinking that you might be able to play professional baseball. That decision's up to you and the work that you decide to put in. Because at 30 years old, that thought still tried to pass through my head. I had to laugh at it, pick it out and say, hey, that's not the point, Kirk. That's not what we're doing this for. But I get it. Anything that we challenge ourselves to do, we want to be the best at. And we want to reach the height of what we can give ourselves. And, I think if I give all of myself to the people that I get a chance to come across, then maybe there's an ounce of that hope that lives within them that, hey, if he could do it, then I could do it, because I'm no different than anybody else. And I got the same weaknesses and same strengths as anybody else. And I'm going to have the same good days and the same bad days. And as Jim Rohn says, the same wind blows on us all. It's just a matter of how are we going to handle the situations when they're placed in front of us. And at this point, with those continual positive days and structured days that are compounding on itself, it makes it easier to get up from the bad days. And what I try to pass along to my athletes as much as I can these days is, look, if we're not taking the disciplines that we learn in our sport and applying it back to our education, our nutrition, our spiritual life, your physical fitness, your family, what the heck's the point of why we're growing through these things? And so it's much bigger than the game of baseball. And baseball is one, fortunately, that teaches a lot of life lessons throughout it, but it's just trying to open their eyes to when the lessons are there to be taught, and give them that guidance to make the better decision from the weaker decision that might have potentially been made.
So that's, based on what you're saying, this is a great segue to start talking about pursuit for purpose, if you're ready to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, what's so exciting is you touch base on so many things I believe in. That, I mean, happiness isn't about a destination, right? It's about you're bracing yourself and your challenges and your story and having ideas and ideals. And you touch base on how you got through every bad day, and it's just part of your experience, and you do your best to serve others. So I have a little bit of the background on it. Matt doesn't, but start us off with where the whole concept for pursuit for purposes came from, and what your plans are with it.
Well, pursuit for purpose was something that was placed on my heart. That's just not me. This is one that I'm blessed that I get to say is happening through me, but it's not because of me. I kind of just, it was one of those things that you get struck and I had to move, and something told me, get out of the way and let this happen. And I brought it to life quick. LLCs, websites, different things, of what the mission was, and these different aspects of what's making it. And now it's growing in terms of, altering what the delivery method is and different things of that nature. But I'd love to be able to sit here and lie and say that it all started out altruistic. It has started with a business mentality of nothing to do with pursuit for purpose, nothing to do with serving others. How can I profit off of the NIL, and kids starting to be able to start making money off of their name? How could I make money off of them making money off of their name? And I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll do a shirt company where, I'm putting their name on the back and their school in the front, and they'll sell it to their 10 parents, because my theory was there's more low-level athletes than there are high-level athletes. So why is somebody not catering to those people? And where the distance from that came was, so they're like, oh, I got to get school's approval to use their likeness. I'm going to have to cut them in on percentages of profits. And then really it was like, dude, there's no value here. Like, there's nothing that you could actually feel good about growing. It would just be another job. It would just be another thing that it is a means to another destination. And then growth was placed on me, personal development. And that's always an area that I've cared about. And so then that's where it just hit me that I need to create essentially a glorified personal development club for athletes. We grow in the dark a lot of times. And there's still a little bit of a stigma to putting yourself out there, that you're willing to take that next step of what you don't understand. And just even also internal growth, it's not necessarily looked at through the lens of acceptance through a lot of people. It's a personal challenge that you're telling them that they're not living their life the right way. And, it's as good as it is for others, it's an attack on other people as well, too. And I just knew that if it made a difference to myself, then I can helpfully help these athletes start building the principles and values that make the bigger difference of growing them, and preparing them for life. And that's just where it has all came from. And, I've got some lofty goals of what it can turn into, but it never started with any idea of monetization. It's all, I truly believe, if I put the group of people together, the money kind of has no choice but to come. And if it doesn't, it'll lead me to the next thing that I can help grow into an actual business, based upon different things. And now it's turning more into being able to be a success coach, and being able to, it helped me find that I needed to get back into school and find a master's that I care about. And that's why I'm getting my master's in positive coaching and athletic leadership. It just kind of fits right in with where I'm going as a person. And when I found that, it tied everything in so well. And again, like I said, I just wanted to build a community. I just wanted to be a part of bringing people together, that at a certain point it leaves me, and it's not about me. It's about the athletes themselves growing in a network, and understanding that there's other people out there. And hey, you might be in New York and I might be in California and you might be in Texas, but you know what? Sports has brought us together to where we can now all talk and share the same problems that we're going through sport. And that's why it's for all sports. It's for all athletes. It's for coaches. It's for just anybody that is ready to take that next step of just trying to feed themselves this positive material. But the most important thing is taking action on the information that you receive, because the motivation has to come from within. It only will last for so long from getting it from outside sources. And then, if you're dependent on others to fuel you up, what happens when they're not there? And it's easy to slip back through the cracks. So trying to help people find their own intrinsic motivation, trying to help people find their emotional intelligence, and start setting goals for themselves. Start setting, finding a purpose and leading themselves to what it can be, because you don't necessarily find your purpose on day one, but you have to start taking the steps that will guide you towards the different meanings that you're going to make. And I wouldn't have been able to find this purpose that got placed on my heart unless I started 5 years ago. And so, we talk about success not being a moment. It's not. It's a culmination of every step that I've taken that's led me to here. And when in 5 years I get to look back at myself and smile that I took that first step, it'll still be the 5 years of steps that I took prior to that get to, bring it all together. So I'm very humbled that I get to have something that was placed on my heart, like I said, as something to bring into the world as just a positive force. That's what I care about the most is energy. The way that we represent ourselves and what we bring to a situation is kind of what makes and breaks people. I tend to be a social butterfly. I like to talk to people. I like to get to know people, and I just like to give, myself to a person in that situation so that they could feel heard, because we don't know if that might be the first time they've been heard in a long time. And your little small interaction could have a bright spot in somebody's day. And there's enough crap that we have to deal with that I've made the choice that I'm not going to be a part of making people have bad days.
So Kirk, tell me from an athlete's perspective, what they get out of it, what they or what the it sounds like there's many things they could get out of it. Like, why would an athlete want to be part of it? And a little more, some more detail, like for instance.
Right, of course. So what I'm doing right now is I'm bringing on a weekly guest who's a lot of different prominent figures in the sports world, and I'm interviewing them and just getting their different perspectives on I'm focusing on foundational pillars like you guys have talked about for yourself. And a lot of mine are different things like character, discipline, accountability, resilience, hope, love, faith. A lot of these different aspects are things that we need to be built upon as people much more than just our sport. Because when you're identified only by your sport, when your sport fails you, and it will, you have nothing left to stand on, and you're going to turn and run from the problems that you have. So I'm trying to help these athletes who are willing and able to start taking accountability for the direction that they're heading as a person more than as an athlete. And, interviewing these different people about the different topics that, I'm talking about, and just giving them a chance to see that, look, people at the highest level care about this stuff. And it's not an accident that they got to where they've gotten. And I don't care what you end up doing for a career, but I want you to be built on hopefully being a good human being and a contributor to society. And you want to, my tags is, giving you the tools to become a champion of character. And these guys, it's up to them. You can't force personal development and self-growth down anybody's throat. You have to be willing to walk through that door yourself. But, life is about timing. And I definitely believe that the people that I get a chance to come across are the people that need that information at that present time. And, I got scared at a certain point because I started, I didn't know, I hadn't seen anything like this. But as soon as I started doing it, here comes this one, it's just like buying a red car, and then all of a sudden you see every red car. But old me would have turned and ran because I was scared of the competition, and new me found it as fuel to the fire to know that this is a market, and not even just a market. This is a valuable, needed thing in society, especially as we start attaching mental health and, mental awareness that much more into athletes these days. And I think this is a big component that's missing. These kids need to be cared about as people first. And I believe
the beauty of a market, Kirk, is the market only exists if there is value to it, right? Otherwise, it'll cease to exist. It just
right.
Almost by definition. So the fact that you found that there was a market there shows you there's value in this.
Right. Absolutely. And I'm loving giving it away. And like I said, there's different things that are coming from it. And if people want more individualized help, and, I kind of see myself helping high school athletes, maybe junior college kids, people who are kind of going through that transition, but just that kind of more youth in sports age is who I see helping the most, because I have the direct experience of going through what they're trying to go through just a few years ago. So I'm not, that far removed, even though I might technically be a different generation. am still plugged in enough to not be too disassociated with, what they need as people. And, not even just from a pursuit for purpose standpoint, but from a coach's standpoint, if I'm not enjoying myself, how are you going to enjoy yourself? And that's what I'm trying to do more than anything, is create an environment where I'm enjoying what's going on, and selfishly, and it's not even the intention, but I'm growing the most through this. I need pursuit for purpose more than pursuit for purpose needs me. And that's what keeps me going. And it was one of those things that I've always known for myself, that and it's a cop out, it's easy excuse, but it's kind of one of those things where you go like, when I go all in, there's no turning back. And this was the thing that I felt like was going to propel everything for me to go all in. I put a lot of accountability on my shoulders with what I've started trying to proclaim. And I'm thriving on trying to hold the weight of that accountability up for the actions that I take, because I've made a lot of mistakes through my youth. And so these guys aren't really pulling the cover over my eyes when they try to give me excuses like we talked about. It's like, no, I've made every homework excuse. I've blamed every professor. I've lied about missing every different thing. I don't understand how my mom ever let me get through high school, or, yeah, we didn't have homework today, or just, no, it doesn't make sense. But I'm just trying to help these guys open their eyes a little bit sooner than later, and be there for them when the downfalls happen. And then that's another opportunity, like I said, is being able to serve more people, not just the guys on my baseball team, but whoever feels like we can have a human connection. Because that's what I get out of it as a person, is just getting to connect with somebody. And it goes back to just plain and simple baseball and taking a decision 5 years ago has led me to moments where I get to get on the phone with kids and just be an encourager, and as far as one thing that I've enjoyed with recruiting the most, that's almost, ties into everything that's going on with Pursuit for Purpose, is just being an ear, just being somebody that's in your corner. I tell these kids all the time, I don't care if you come to my school. That's not important. What's important to me is that you use your vehicle to get yourself ahead in life. And if it's us, that's great. If it's not, that's okay too. That doesn't mean that we don't get to have a positive correspondence through this time, and know that you got somebody in your corner anytime that you might need them, even if we don't have this big relationship. But I share my story with these kids. I share, my heart with them, just so that they know at the end of the day, somebody cares about them. And I can't tell you how many of these kids end up just telling me, like, coach, no coach talks to me like this. It's in and out, but it's not what recruiting is to me. Like, I just care so much more about connecting with the person and being a small positive, light in that process.
So many athletes think the recruitment and going to college is like the end. But like you said, it should be a means to something else, right? It should be a tool. And that's why I love your Pursuit for Purpose, because the sooner they can find that out, the better off they're going to be. And the more they're probably going to enjoy the experience too. Everybody waits till they're done playing, and it's like, what next, right? Where you could be using all the things you talk about through the athletic experience to start incubating what's next. So just the fact, and what I love, I've been through it with my daughters in the recruiting process, just the fact that you take the pressure off and say, it's not about coming to my school. It's about supporting you in your journey. Ooh, that's priceless, because coaches don't talk that way.
Right. And
some do. You know what I mean, though.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
This is great. So tell Matt real quick, again, and our viewers, every Sunday, right, you have a guest on with Pursuit.
Yeah, every Sunday. I'm making some small alterations right now, so you got to stay plugged in, because I am a college baseball coach, and those are my guys. I got to take care of them. I got to make sure that they're cared for, and we play on Sunday sometimes. And the biggest thing that I have to make sure to do is never leave a guest hanging. I'm not going to embarrass myself and do that, but I have not given up on the fact that this is going to be a weekly thing. So it might be on a Thursday, it might be on a Friday, it might be on a Sunday, but it's going to happen once a week, just based upon even my own season schedule that's going on. And I want to keep it live. I started thinking at different points, I could do a recording and then play it at a different time. It's like, no, like, find a way. And so that's just going to keep doing it. Like this past week was on Friday. This past week's episode was on Friday. This next week's episode will probably be on Sunday. I'm looking at the weather. We got rain on Friday, so we're supposed to play Friday, Saturday. I wouldn't doubt if it gets bumped back to Saturday, Sunday. So we'll find a way that it's going to make it work. But every Sunday we're doing a live interview and interaction. And one of the things that I tried to promote within the podcast is the player and coach contribution. I want people to step up and share what they thought of different questions or a particular pillar, and something that could add any value to anybody, because I really believe at a certain point, these kids are going to start sharing with each other, and they're going to learn more from each other than they're ever going to learn from me or a guest, because it's going to mean more coming from another 19-year-old that's saying, like, dude, I'm struggling with this as well too. And it just brings everybody to the same level. And like I said, that I'm trying to take it out of the dark and help us grow together as much as we can in the light, and just realize that we're all going to face the same challenges. But if you build that support system, sometimes it's easier to have a support system to somebody that's not attached to your same team. You don't have to show that vulnerability to somebody else that might not be accepting or might worry or make funny. It's any number of things that we tell ourselves as an excuse to not do something. And it was every reason as to why it took until 30 until I finally said, I'm not worried about what anybody else thinks anymore.
Awesome.
Kirk, where do people find your podcast?
So my podcast is on Apple Podcasts and Spotify under Pursuit for Purpose, number 4 in there, Pursuit for Purpose. I've also got Twitter at Pursuit for Purpose, I've got a website, pursuitforpurpose.com, where the recordings of the videos are on there as well too. And I'm just trying to make it whatever medium is best for people. I've got the video on the website, just the audio on the podcast, and whatever way that it can be there. I make myself laugh because there is a gear element to everything, but I've made all of no sales, so it's like it has nothing to do with anything. But I've loved it. I've loved creating designs that are for me more than anything, and that's just what I'm enjoying through this process just as much as anything. Is it's for me as well too, and if I'm doing something that makes me happy and builds value in my own life, there's no way there's not a certain percentage of people that are going to find value in it as well too. And that's just business. You're not going to get 100% return on anything, but all I need is a sliver of the market to be monumentally successful. And my bigger picture vision for Pursuit for Purpose from a statistical standpoint is to have a membership group of 75,000 people. And it's lofty, but 75,000 people is 1% of the 8 million people playing sports through high school, college, professional sports.
I see.
All sports through it. And if I can make a 1% difference in the athletic community, that's game changing for myself, my future family, and generations to come. But the reality is there's monumental success at half of that and half of that and half of that, and whatever number that you want to continue dividing it by. And all to say, all that matters is that one person is positively impacted through this all, and it was still a success.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome, Kirk. I usually wrap it up with a question, but I think we're going to wrap it up right there because that was a great ending. It really was.
It was.
You got a couple fans out of us, and I'll be following you baseball season. And I know it's not the last time we're going to talk. When we talked a couple weeks ago, this Pursuit for Purpose is something that I'm literally falling in love with. I mean, I know that sounds goofy, but I love the whole concept behind it. So
I appreciate that, Paul, and I appreciate Matt, you guys having me on, and just any opportunity to share my heart, like I said. And I'm too grateful that people are listening, and that I just get a chance to keep doing what I love, and what I'm enjoying the most above all else is being myself. And that's what I can't get enough of.
Perfect.
Kirk, keep being yourself, my friend.
Awesome, guys. Really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, take care.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, Kurt.